Okay, I don't normally do these like ad hoc videos on YouTube, but I really feel I need to provide some insight on this weekend because there's just so much in the astrology right now that almost predicts what's about to happen. Right, so let's begin. So, this weekend we have Mars in Leo squaring Uranus and Taurus. This is a horrible aspect. Every time we have this, something bad happens. You know, you have some kind of civil unrest or something notable happens, right? We've already got the LA riots. I literally made a video about this yesterday and I was like, okay, this weekend, especially June the 15th on the Sunday, it's really going to be at its peak. We should note that this can lead to explosions. I literally said last week about planes falling out the sky. Rest in peace to everyone on that plane, unfortunately, that was terrible. And it really feels like it's a linear, in my mind, I see the linear progression of the timeline. Mars and Leo squaring Uranus and Taurus, very explosive, very sudden events, lots of civil unrest. Mars and Leo is also incredibly fiery as well, but it's also selfish, it's like, I can't believe that you don't respect me, it's petulant. It can be petulant, And then we've got the absolute big daddy of all big daddies, you've got Jupiter in Cancer squaring Saturn in Aries, especially June the 15th. With the whole Israel-Iran situation, are you having a laugh? Basically. And I've said this before again. Jupiter, if people don't watch me on TikTok, by the way, you'd be like, when did you say this? Like, I do a lot of videos on TikTok. Jupiter in Cancer is a lot about protecting the homeland. I talked about patriotism and nationalism, and these two are different things, but I put them in the same bracket. I know they're not the same thing. Jupiter's expansive, but Cancer is about the homeland, and it's about protecting the homeland and wanting to protect assets, like a mother protects a baby, right? It's like I'm on the defense. Saturn in Aries is the one that's like pushing Jupiter in Cancer into a corner and saying, I'm a rebel without a cause. I've told you so many times I don't like Saturn in Aries. Because it does what it wants. It's too James Dean with that rebel without a cause. It's too, there are no strings on me, you can't constrain me. And when Jupiter is squaring Saturn, that's quite literally a tug of war. That's like, you think you're going to win? I'm going to win. And then you got Mars and Leo that's like selfish and doesn't care about its citizens. It doesn't care about what's going on. You know what I mean? People in those countries are like, seriously, here we go again. Because Israel and Iran had a conflict a couple of months ago. I mean, they've had an ongoing conflict, obviously. But, they had like actually firing missiles at each other. So it's all kind of crazy. And it really feels like June 15th is the peak. And I don't like to fearmonger. Because why would I like to fear? I don't want to do that. I just want to go about my day, But when you have the knowledge of it, you're like, I can't. And other astrologers are also saying, look, I don't want to talk about this either, but we must talk about this. And I did a video yesterday, like I said, and then someone said, oh my God, and Israel attacked Iran. I said, well, we've known about this since June the 11th. The US were briefed on it. They took their personnel out of Iran. They knew about it, right? So, and there was lots of things in astrology. And like I said for the past 2 weeks, yes, Jupiter going in Cancer is great, but it's squaring a lot of things. Saturn in Aries, Neptune in Aries. Of course, Neptune in Aries is really larger than life. And then you have all sorts of other things going on. But the fact that you have Mars and Leo squaring Uranus and Taurus, which is already incredibly volatile and leads to a lot of anger, because Mars is the god of war, right? And it's in a fire sign, a sign that rules the heart and fights with passion, A lot of people are out on the streets, they're fighting with their heart, they're fighting for what's right. Nothing is ever won without fighting, right? And then you have Uranus and Taurus, it's like, ooh, I'm also going to shock your bottom line, because a lot of this is all about money, right? It's all about money. So it's like the bottom line of it. It's so crazy. And I really just despair with it all because you see it plain as day, right? All I will say is, yes, there's conflict and this doesn't look nice. But what I will say is, I don't think we should be like, this is World War III. Some astrologers are like, this is the closest we've ever got to World War III. No. I don't think we should be pulling that flag out just yet. Next year, maybe around April. No comment, I'll pull that flag out. But for now, it's not too nasty. You know, I don't think it's like, yeah, it's bad. Like, I'm making this video to say it's bad, but I don't think we should be hiding in a bunker, you know. This is more like a pissing contest. And I've said this before about Saturn and Aries. I literally said in my 2024 horoscopes, this is two political world leaders fighting with each other, saying, you're going to win, I'm going to win. That's why I said I don't like Saturn and Aries. And then you have it squaring Jupiter in Cancer, which is literally the mummy of the zodiac saying, you can't hurt my baby. Because when a mother is backed into a corner, oh my God, you're going to see the rage. You're going to see the inhuman amounts of, you know, like when you see a crackhead, this is a random thing, you see a crackhead and they've got this just like inhuman strength. That's what mothers have when they're backed into a corner and they want to protect the baby. And the baby is the country. But the problem is you have Mars and Leo that's being like, I'll protect the country. But the people within it, do they get a say? You know, so it's all so volatile. And Uranus and Taurus is quite literally explosive. You know, it's often associated with volcanoes, flights, but it's explosive, right? And then Mars is explosive. So that's like bombs, missiles, things that explode, you know? It's also sad and annoying because it's like, we see it happen so many times and you see it in astrology. And also, I want to say, this is a great example of, I don't want to be proven right by this. I actually hope it doesn't escalate. I'm happy to be proven wrong in this case. But it's so obvious that astrology can be tracked to these specific events. Especially when Uranus and Taurus is I despair with this placement. Why does it exist? Why does Uranus exist? Also, I've got Uranus in my first house. You want to talk about an identity crisis? Every single day. Don't know if I'm up or down. Here, there, up, down like an Amsterdam girl. I'm like, what's going on? I don't know who I am. So Uranus is always really strange. Yeah, just wanted to make this video. I could talk for hours on this, but I don't want to because it's not good to talk about such depressing things. But I will say is that Jupiter and Cancer squaring Saturn and Aries and Mars and Leo squaring Uranus and Taurus, two very volatile aspects together. I do think this Iran-Israel situation is going to escalate. I think that, you know, what's going on in LA with the riots is also escalating. And of course, I said that's going to be going for the next year because Jupiter being in Cancer is already about patriotism, but it's also about people protecting themselves and their families, you know? So